welcome back to Challenge Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
All right, so we'll get right into things we finally have our AFC and our NFC champions. Sadly, I don't think they are the champions that either of us wanted. I know it's not the champions I wanted, but we'll start off with the NFC just to go in chronological order here. We have the number 1 Eagles versus number 2 49ers. The Eagles had a bit of a blowout. They won it 31-7, and that was really heartbreaking for me to watch, honestly. I don't know about you, but I did not enjoy watching this game whatsoever.
You know, I have a theory on this, why me and you would not like watching this game. This game was like anytime Iowa plays a top-tier opponent like Ohio State or Michigan. And it just felt like no offense. Our defense is on the field 85% of the time. And you just watched, like, it's like suffocating very slowly and knowing you're coming to your demise. And you can't help yourself and you can't stop yourself. And I think that's why I was so traumatized about this game and I was so pissed off because, like, it was giving me flashbacks to being an Iowa fan. And it was brutal. It was terrible.
There are reasons there was no offense. Brock Purdy played 2 plays. I mean, he came back in like the third quarter, but not at full capacity or anything. Like, he played 2 plays of the game. Like, of course there was no offense. The backup, I don't even remember his name. Thompson?
Josh Johnson. 13-year vet, 13 different teams, but 13-year vet.
Yeah, so it kind of goes to your point of I know you like to talk about having that solid veteran quarterback as a backup, and God, could the 49ers have used a solid veteran quarterback as a backup, because Josh Johnson or whatever mystery man's name, he was horrible. I'm sad, like 49ers didn't stand a chance after Brock went down. I think they would have been better with McCaffrey back there running Wildcat. It was ugly.
And that's the hard part, and that's reality of the NFL. You need a good backup. You can't go off a Mickey Mouse backup like Josh Johnson. It breaks my heart because this could have been Jimmy G saving the day. And so I really think Jimmy G could have probably at least gave the 49ers a chance in this game if he would have been out there. But that's besides the point. If I would have told you in the beginning of the game that Brock Purdy would not have thrown an incompletion in this game, and would you have thought the 49ers won this game handily?
Oh, easily. That was the number one thing I was thinking of when he was out, because he was 4 for 4, right? Like only threw 4 passes the whole game.
Yeah, 4 for 4, 39 yards. Impressive stat. But yeah, no, this game, it hurt me. It broke me mentally, and I'm not even a 49ers fan. Credit where credit is due. The Eagles didn't do anything to lose this game. But speaking of the Eagles, I still don't believe in the Eagles. I want them, to go farther, but I don't believe in the Eagles. They've had the easiest path to the Super Bowl ever. I swear.
Which makes a little bit of sense because, that's kind of how it is being the number 1 seed. Regular season aside, we were talking about that in the coach's office a few days ago. Like, yeah, the Eagles had the easiest path. Yeah, in theory, so does every number 1 seed. That's kind of how it's designed. First round bye, play the lowest seeded team, and then, okay, it's time to go. But no, the Eagles are good. I think they're a very, very good team. I don't think they win the Super Bowl. We'll get more into that, but because I know I've heard some arguments, they put up 31 points on the 49ers, second best defense in the league. But like you said, that was a defense that was getting 3 plays off between being on the field every time. They were on the field like the entire game, and aside from being on the field the entire game, they knew their starting quarterback was down. They knew their backup quarterback sucked. Mentally, they they knew it was over. Like by the end of the first quarter, they just knew the game was over. They can say they were trying their best and doing everything they can, and to some degree they probably are, but at the same time, there's only so much you can do, and they know that.
Yeah, hypothetical here. Brock Purdy ever gets hurt. Do the Niners win this game? Because
yeah, I think so.
I really do. I really think the Niners win this game if Brock never gets hurt. One thing with this is the non-catch that was called a catch in the beginning of the game on 4th and 3. We talked about this earlier in the year with Zach that came on. Kyle Shanahan sometimes makes some bonehead decisions in the playoffs. And that was a bonehead decision, not challenging that catch and letting the Eagles run up and call another play and get another playoff. That was ridiculous. That was a non-catch. I mean, it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but at that point, it was 0-0 almost at the end of the first quarter. Like, I feel like, or like halfway through the first quarter. That was a big turning point in that game. And then 2 plays later, when Brock gets hurt, and Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach, decides to call the challenge on that when it was called an incompletion. So, like, I mean,
it's hard from a coaching standpoint sometimes, though, because the coaches don't have the eyes. The coaches don't have the kit. Like, they're listening to people up in the box that's telling them, like, definitely you should review that. Definitely you should not review that. So sometimes it's just about how quick can the other team get up and snap the ball. Because Kyle Shanahan, he very well could have challenged that. I'm sure the guys in the box were watching it and discussing it, but the Eagles could have just outpaced him. Like, he's waiting on his guys in the box to tell him, yeah, 100% drop that flag. You won't lose a timeout. You won't lose whatever. Because you do run that risk, regardless of how obvious it kind of looks like in a second or in a moment. You drop that flag, you're losing a timeout if you don't win that challenge. And arguably, if this were the other way around and he drops that flag and loses that challenge, well, then his boneheaded decision becomes challenging the play. Like, why not let it go? Why not everything,
And I 100% agree on that, but at the same time, well, I 100% understand on that. But at the same time, in the NFL, you can call a timeout and get better video footage of that play and then challenge the call.
In that case, you're still losing a timeout, though.
You're still losing a timeout, but it was 4th and 3. It was 4th and 3. It would have been a turnover on down. 49ers get the ball. So, like, I would rather risk a timeout instead of them converting that 4th and 3 and then punching it in from 8 yards out on a run play to Miles Sanders. I in a heartbeat, it's risk and reward, and that was not a catch at all. And I feel like the 49ers kind of got hosed. I mean, that was a hard play for a ref, and there was some shitty refereeing. So, like, but at the same time, it was bad.
Both games, the reffing was a little bit questionable for sure. And I know that was the number one thing everyone always talks about. NFL is rigged, blah, 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 whatever. But sometimes the refs just, I hate games that things are too touchy. I think the refs need to let them play sometimes. I think someone was talking about the penalties on the 49ers. The 49ers had a million penalties. I don't remember the actual number, but they had a lot of penalty yards. And of course, some of that probably comes just from frustration because a lot of that was after Brock Purdy went down. They were getting low, all of that. But still, the penalties that were called in a couple of these games were just there was a million of them. And if you're going to play games in the regular season and let some stuff kind of go and let some stuff be a little bit like let them play, you need to do the same in the playoffs. Yes, the stakes are higher and it's more important to make the right calls in the playoffs, but that doesn't mean that we need a million flags in a game.
I agree. I feel like in the playoffs, I don't think flags are as necessary in the regular season. Like, I could care less if this was a regular season game and, the refs inflicted the game like this and, like, flexed their power. But in the postseason, let teams play. Let teams play. Be a little relaxed. Be more relaxed. Don't be flag happy and whistle happy. Let teams play. I can't get past the refs in this game. And this wasn't even the worst reffing game of the weekend.
Yeah, and just aside, getting away from the rest a little bit and going into Brock Purdy a little bit, on that play he was hurt. Was there a penalty called at all? I didn't actually see this play happen. I came into this game late. I think I started watching just before the second half, but tell me about when Brock actually got hurt. I know he was going to pass and kind of got snapped back.
Yeah, so there was no flag called on this play. Brock just converted a 23-yard pass to kill, so that was half of his yards right there. And the 49ers were driving, and he ended up getting clobbered by Hassan Reddick, great defensive end. And that's another thing, Kyle Shanahan, bonehead decision there, because he had his backup tight end blocking one of the best defensive ends in the league right now. I mean, I get it. It's a formation. I get it. You know, NFL players should be able to adapt and overcome no matter the situation and the scenario. But, yeah, so the 49ers, they were driving, and it was 7-0 at this point. They were driving. And, yeah, once Brock went out, you could see everybody on the 49ers sideline deflate, because Brock's the guy that held it together for the last 8 games. He held a sinking ship together, and he patched it up, and he got him all the way to the NFC Championship. It's heartbreaking, man. It really is. It's heartbreaking to see.
And the saddest part about this is he's out for a year now. He's getting Tommy John surgery, so yeah. He's not coming back. Not next year.
Yep, and guess what? It'll probably be Trey Lance now, and who knows? NFL, you miss your opportunity, the time goes by. And Brock might not get another opportunity, and this will just be some random trivia question that's on NFL trivia in about 10 years. Who was the quarterback to lead the 49ers NFC Championship in 2023?
I think Purdy will have his chance. It might not come immediately. He might be a backup now for a year or two. Who knows? But after the way he played, after the way he did lead this team through the playoffs into the NFC Championship, you got to think there are plenty of teams out there that'll want him. Even if it's just the 49ers playing him, like, I don't know if they still believe fully in Trey Lance. Trey Lance didn't seem to be doing super hot when he was playing, and that's when he wasn't injured, which he seems like he always is. So I say there's a good chance Brock Purdy does not go back to his irrelevancy. I think he will definitely be a name. Not this next season, obviously, but I think his chance comes. His chance definitely comes in the next few years.
And I sure hope so, because, you know, this was a great story. Cinderella stories have to end at some point. And, you know, for the 49ers, it just kind of happened this weekend. They ran into the Philadelphia Eagles. And like we said, and I want to shout out Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has a chip on his shoulder bigger than Alaska. Let's just say that. Jalen Hurts is one of these quarterbacks that I watch play, and I just want Justin to be like this. I want Justin to be like this. Jalen Hurts is incredible. And, you know, the flip that switched with Jalen Hurts is probably when he got benched for Tua at Alabama before he transferred to Oklahoma. In the national championship game, he got benched for Tua. And look who's having a better NFL career right now. But Jalen Hurts, man, he's just mad respect for the Eagles. I really like Jalen Hurts, and I want to see him succeed. And yeah,
I think Fields reasonably could become like Hurts. I mean, you have to look on the other side of things too. Hurts has people to throw to, so
Yeah.
I think biggest thing lacking for Justin right now, he is super similar to Hurts. I think he throws well. He can throw a deep ball. He can use his legs phenomenally. He can run. He just needs the receivers now to kind of complete that package.
And the offensive line. Oh my God.
And the line would be
The
helpful.
Eagles.
Yeah.
The Eagles' offensive line is incredible. Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Maluga, or whatever his name's pronounced. That Eagles' offensive line, they have 3 All-Pros. Like, when you have 3 All-Pros, you feel pretty damn comfortable being a quarterback.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the Eagles line is definitely the best in the NFL. That's going to be something that spoiler alert, the Chiefs are going to have to overcome in the Super Bowl. But speaking of the Chiefs, let's get into the AFC side of things. We had number 1 Chiefs versus number 3 Bengals. Arguably should have been the number 2 Bengals. We don't know. That game never happened with the Bills. But Chiefs did manage to pull out the win, 23-20 with a last-minute field goal. I think it's obvious we have to talk about that last-minute field goal and the moments leading up to it. So what do you think about that play? Just the late hit out of bounds. What are your thoughts there? Was it a late hit? Should it have happened?
I don't think it was a late hit by Joseph Osai. I really don't. I don't think Joseph Osai hit him late. One thing with this play is he had all the momentum. He couldn't slow his momentum down, and their legs got tangled. He didn't even hit him. Their legs got tangled. I don't believe it was a late hit. And Joseph Osai got the rough end of the stick on this hit too. And no game should end on a penalty. I don't think any game should end on a penalty because guess what? That moved a 60-yard field goal that could have been very impressive for Harrison Buckner to hit. And if he would have hit it, I would have respected the Chiefs a whole lot better. But a 45-yard field goal should be nothing for an NFL kicker. Should be nothing for an NFL kicker. And Harrison Buckner, no disrespect to Buckner, he came out and he did his job. And he hit the game-winning field goal. But no, I really don't think that was a late hit. I really don't.
I think it was a late hit. There was contact. There was a shove out of bounds. It was a hit there. Should it have been called? Slightly more questionable. In an interview he did after the game and stuff, he actually said, everyone was kind of trying to ask about it, like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. His thought process during it was he actually he was trying to decelerate and he was trying to keep Mahomes in bounds. Or, yeah, it was Mahomes. He was trying to keep him in bounds. He wanted to, pull him away from the sideline and down. That's what he was, like, wanting to go for. And, so, just those kind of split second to sit, like, would it have mattered? No, it really wouldn't have. But, like, he's moving. He has milliseconds to think of this. That was his intention from what he said, is he wanted to catch up to Mahomes and pull him, like, keep him inbound, keep the clock running, send it into overtime. But obviously he got there a little too late. And by the time he did get there, like you said, wasn't able to slow down. And so he does hit him out of bounds.
Yeah. And, besides this hit, the Bengals had so many opportunities in this game. One, we praised the Bengals offensive line last week. Well, we can't praise them this week. Joe Burrow got sacked 5 times. 5 times. You let your franchise all-pro quarterback get hit 5 times? That's ridiculous. You call yourself an NFL lineman, and that's not even it. T. Higgins should have had a catch on the sideline, drop ball. There was multiple errors by Zach Taylor and coaching. The Bengals shot themselves in the foot.
The Higgins dropped ball is the one that sticks out. Those should be easy catches. That should have been a catch. That should be there. And like you said, to take pressure off of the late hit and everything, that one play is the one that gets glorified. But even aside from all the earlier stuff in the game, the Chiefs had to drive down the field to that point for that late hit to even have. There were at least 3, 4, 5 other plays in that drive alone that could have negated that situation ever coming about. So
yeah,
pressure off.
Yeah, and then Sky Moore, his kick return, special teams. The Bengals failed at all levels of the game. I mean, if you are being honest, I think last week's rumbling of Buffalo was the Bengals Super Bowl. I think it was. I think it had to be. They got all hyped up because they wanted to beat the Bills. They didn't come in. They talked all this shit about it being Burrowhead and everything like that. If I'm being 100% honest, I think the Bengals were the best team on the field that day against the Chiefs. And they lost the game. And sometimes that's what happens any given Sunday in the NFL. But I just, at the end of the day, they lost their chance.
Yep. It comes down to those little things. Every coach ever will always talk about it's the little things. It's the process. It's all those, and like catching passes and getting your blocks and not messing up. It's all those little things. And those little things are just what the what the Bengals failed to do against the Chiefs. And so regardless of whether they were the better team or not on the field, if you can't get those little things right, you're not going to win games against highly, highly competitive matchups,
Correct.
So the Chiefs very well shot themselves in the foot. You got to watch the little things. And so hopefully they'll remember that going into next year. I agree. I think the Bills was definitely their kind of mental Super Bowl. And I don't know, that maybe they just weren't as ready or cleaned up. Maybe they just weren't as fresh. Maybe they went a little too all out against the Bills. Didn't have quite the same recovery process afterwards. Who knows?
And I want to say two more things about this game, but I want to spotlight two players, one on defense and one on offense. Travis Kelce all year has been incredible. And in this game, he was no short of incredible. He was amazing in this game. He has officially passed Julian Edelman for the second most catches in the postseason of all time. He's not that far off from Jerry Rice, which is known as the GOAT. And also on the defensive side, Chris Jones, man, he terrorized Joe Burrow. 2 sacks and a tackle, 2 tackle for losses. This guy was an animal. He came out, and it's funny that he came out and he proved what he was capable of, because he did a press conference on Thursday before the game, and when he was done with the press conference, he came out and said, "All right, guys, well, we'll see y'all at Burrowhead." And then he left the conference room because everybody was calling Arrowhead Stadium Burrowhead, and I really love that because he let his play do the shit talking for him.
I think the Chiefs had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder from last year. I think that after losing in the AFC Championship to the Bengals last year, they were very prepared or well equipped to not let that happen again. Kind of like how the Bengals going into the Bills game had a chip on their shoulder that really pushed them to succeed. I think the Eagles had that same chip. Obviously, Chris Jones had that chip. We saw him in the backfield more times than not. And, some credit to, or some discredit, whatever, to the O-line, come on, guys, got to keep it together, got to get your blocks, got to stay in front, whatever. But Chris Jones was tearing up that O-line. And so definitely I think there was a chip on his shoulder, and that's going to help you win games. And they didn't even crazily defeat them. This wasn't the same as the Eagles and Niners, where it was kind of a blowout, or even the Bengals and the Bills, where the Bengals really brought it to them. This was a close game. So those little things like that can just make the world of a difference when you're in a game between two fairly equal leveled teams against each other.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say the Chiefs played the perfect game. No. They had a lot of mistakes. They did too. But the Bengals had more. And in the NFL, you can't win with mistakes. You can't win with mistakes and bad coaching, and penalties. Like those three things right there are gonna lose you football games. But mad respect to Patrick Mahomes. He gutted that injury out, and you could tell he was struggling, especially late in the third, early in the fourth quarter. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, man, there's not much you can say about Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's the Tom Brady effect. He is the best quarterback in the NFL, and there's no doubt about it. I love Joe Burrow, and I like Josh Allen, but Patrick Mahomes is on his own level, and he'll keep being on his own level.
It's about the consistency. I know we've been having this argument, and like Patrick Mahomes, it's beyond just the past couple years. Like, obviously, we're talking like no discredit to Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow's had 2 championship appearances. Patrick Mahomes had what, 5 or so with a Super Bowl win. Like, I mean, just that consistency of every year coming to the championship, winning a handful of them, winning the Super Bowl. Like, you can't argue that he's just the best to do it right now.
He is, and until someone proves him otherwise, I mean, we got to keep giving him his flowers because he deserves everything that anybody's ever said about him badly. I don't get it because, like, you know, and I think it is that Tom Brady factor. Like, when you see a quarterback winning and a team winning all the time and always in the AFC, you want something different. You want to change the pace. You want, it'd be interesting if the Jaguars made it. Oh, it would be cool, so on for it. And I think that's why a lot of fans like the Bengals the last couple of years, because they were just like that odd flavor that you don't expect to be there. But the Chiefs now, he's making them into the new New England Patriots. They're the New England Patriots of the 2000s. And, if I was a Chiefs fan, man, I'd be elated. I would be ecstatic. But yeah, so hey, mad respect. Patrick Mahomes. So
we will have Eagles Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and we'll talk more about that. Maybe not even next week, but they got a lot of time to rest for a Super Bowl. So things like Patty Mahomes' ankle, Jalen Hurts, I don't know if he was fully healthy against the Niners or if he was still a little wishy-washy, but they got time now. They got almost a month that they're obviously going to practice, but they can rest, they can recover, they can be 100% for what should be a super good Super Bowl matchup. But moving on, we're getting into some other news that we have in the NFL, starting off with a little bit of Bears news for us. It's been official today that the Bears are going to keep Justin Fields. They're going to trade their first-round pick. They're not interested in getting a quarterback. They're going to trade it away. Fields is going to be our guy. What are your thoughts on that?
Thank God. I thought the Bears were going to be the Bears because we make stupid decisions in the offseason all the times. But I'm so happy about this because I saw so much improvement from Justin Fields. I still think he's a great quarterback. We stuck with Mitch Trubisky for 5 years or 4 years, but we stuck with Mitch for 4 years, and there were people wanting to jump ship from Justin at this point. His passing's not there yet, but
like we said too, he needs receivers. His passing's not quite there, but what first-year quarterback is, and he still is, and this is his first full season that he's played. What first-year quarterback is, he needs guys to throw to. Even aside, you can name the guys on a roster, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Camille Henry, whatever you want to. Half of them were hurt half the year. Regardless of, he has this guy, he didn't have a single one of those receivers for an entire season. Someone was hurt or out or injured for multiple game stretches all throughout the season. So just that's the big reason for the passing game. Receivers. Not Justin's fault. He needs bodies.
And I'll do you one better. Our offensive line. Our O-line. Like, you look at the steps Jalen Hurts has made that we mentioned earlier. That O-line is a huge indicator why he made this step. We need a better offensive line. We can't be running out these 5th, 6th round picks. I mean, yes, they'll get better over time. And I do like where Poles was going. But I wasn't expecting 3 out of the 5 to start this year. And Riley Reef, what a disappointment. I hate to say, but, you know, he is from Iowa, but still, he was terrible for us this year. The only bright spot on our offensive line was Braxton Miller, and he played great. Well, he didn't even play great, but he played great for a rookie. And so I think he'll get better. But like you say receiver, I say offensive line. We need both. But we need both because Justin is just going to keep getting hit, hurt. And, you know, you can say, oh, well, Joe Burrow can do that. And he can, well, he also has receivers. And he has, it's a different dynamic. It's a complete different dynamic.
That actually reminds me, I forgot to mention, going back to that Chiefs-Bengals game with that late hit questionable at the end of the game, I forgot to mention that is totally quarterback specific too. Yep. Patrick Mahomes is getting that call 9 times out of 10. Justin Fields maybe gets that call 1 time out of 10.
Yep.
If that were Justin that were running down the sideline and took that like hit kind of right at the line, not even a hit, but a shove right at the line, just going out, that shit's not getting called. Justin's not getting that, you know, same courtesy of a flag to move him up 10 yards. That's another big issue right there, is even by the refs, Justin's not as protected as some of the other quarterbacks we're talking about. Mahomes, Brady, Burrow. The refs are protecting those guys. They're not protecting Justin.
And this I bring back to against Washington Commanders earlier in the year, and on Thursday Night Football, when Justin got clobbered at the end of the game, late hit, the ball was probably 10 yards down the field at this point, got clobbered, no call. And he had, like, I swear, they broke his ribs. Daron Payne broke his ribs in that game. And it's just, yeah.
We've talked about it before, I think. Matt Nagy, Eberflus has been sending in clips on a weekly basis to the commissioners and everything. There's just clips of Justin Fields getting hit with no calls being called.
Yep. And, you know, that's an awesome move by Eberflus. I love that because he's like, hey, your refs fucked up here. My quarterback's literally getting killed out here. Can you guys do something about this?
I love that so much. Like watching some of our games or watching some of my games, that's one thing I constantly talk about doing. Like, oh, I'm going to send that play to the Midwest Conference. Oh, I'm going to set, like, why don't we send this play? Like, why don't we get these refs fired? Like, the guys suck. And just, I love that Eberflus is actually out here doing it. He's pushing for his quarterback to be protected because at the end of the day, to some degree, like, yeah, O-line's going to help out a ton and everything, but even the best of O-lines slip up. Jalen Hurts has been sacked. That's just a fact. He's been sacked.
Yep.
And half of those times, though, probably gets the ball off, late hit, whatever. Like, those penalties help win games. Even when the O-line does collapse a little bit, some of those little extra, like, oh, that was a late hit, oh, that was whatever, like, it'll win you a game. So I love Eberflus just going out and being like, hey, I'm just going to do that little bit of extra I can for my guys to help everything out.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I mean, and you know what the best thing about keeping Justin Fields is? Consistency. Consistency at the QB position. And we get a lot of income coming, or a lot of like assets that will come from that number 1 pick. We're going to get probably a really good veteran quarterback, or a veteran player, not quarterback, receiver, defense, offensive line. I don't care. One of those 3. We need a linebacker. I mean, if we trade with the Panthers, we get Brian Burns. If we trade with the Raiders, we get Devontae Adams. We trade with the Colts, we get all-pro Quentin Nelson at right guard. I'll take any 3 of those players, but we're going to get so many picks back for this. And I'm so excited because it just keeps going on with the future of the Chicago Bears.
I am absolutely relieved that we're keeping Justin and we're not trying to just go out and grab the next like whatever quarter. I think sometimes like we talk about this is a Bears move, that's just what the Bears do, etc. I think we forget sometimes the entire staff in the Bears is all new. We replaced Pace with Poles. We replaced Nagy with Eberflus. We replaced our president. Like the Bears is a entirely new staff, new team. I think we can rest a little bit more assured. We're not going to make those same kind of dumb decisions and stuff that we did in the past. Poles knows what he's doing. I trust in him. Eberflus, I trust in him. I think this new Bears staff is going to bring us places. It's just going to take a little bit to get their team set up the way they want to.
I agree. I really like the new regime, like you just said. Kevin Warren, he's going to be a great team president. We hadn't replaced Ted Phillips since 1987. 1987, are you kidding me? And Eberflus and Poles, they've already shown like progress. They've already shown like they're ready for this job and they want to be at like in the Chicago Bears organization for a long time. So I'm pretty happy about that. But we got some big retiring news in the NFL.
Again, some big repeated retiring news because on the exact same day a year ago, Tom Brady announced his retirement. He did not, but this year it seems he's tried again.
How long do you think this will last? What's your over-under on this? 1 week,
God.
2 weeks, 2.5?
I give him a month.
You give him a month? Okay. This time I think it's for real. My reasoning, Fox came out and they said they're going to give him $21 million a year to come to the broadcast booth. And they need him now because Sean Payton was at Fox, going to be a broadcaster. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, yeah, so I think Tom is done. I think he saw finally a rough side of what the NFL can be when he's not winning games for Bill Belichick or Bruce Arians, and he has to lead a team at 45 years old. And the Buccaneers were terrible this year, and I think it left a sour taste in his mouth, and he was ready to be done.
I question it. I have a healthy skepticism of him being done because we've seen this before. And I don't know, just in my head, we've talked about all the good times that he could have gone. We've talked about going out on a Super Bowl win. We've talked about going out on a playoff berth, which I guess technically this would be. But
yeah,
still, just this just seems like the worst way he could have decided to go. Like you said, like, oh, he gets his ass kicked, and so now he's just gonna tuck his tail and leave. I don't know if I see it like that. Especially, I know everyone likes to joke now too, like, there's no wife he's going home to. Like, it's just him now. Like, he's a single man. And kind of like you just said, if he's not playing for Belichick or Brazilians, he could go to another team and find another coach to win under. I've even heard some of the guys back in the office are a little skeptical. He's from California and everything, right?
San Francisco.
Yeah, Brock Purdy is getting Tommy John's year-long surgery, not going to have a quarterback. They think there's a chance that he goes to the Niners and, just fills in as kind of a one-year replacement there while Brock Purdy's in rehab or whatever. But we'll see when it's all said and official. I'm not going to believe it until the first kickoff of next season. But supposedly right now he's done. I'm going to question it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I really do. I see him done. I mean, if I was 45 years old and I had 7 Super Bowl wins and Fox wanted to give me $21 million a year and I don't have to get hit anymore, I'm done. I'll be a broadcaster. It's fine. I'll be a commentator. It's fine.
That's the thing. Like, 21 million, first of all, sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
To us.
Yeah.
But, like, we're talking, like, does not need money. Money is irrelevant to him at this point. Like you said, 7 Super Bowls, he's got fucking money.
Yeah.
He doesn't need and or care about the money and or probably could make more continuing to play in the NFL than broadcasting. Not to mention that he loves football. He loves playing football. And even broadcasting, he doesn't get to do the one thing he truly, truly loves. Like, he could easily end up, maybe he does retire. Maybe he ends up like Gronk. And, well, I think once he retires, I think he'd be a little too old to try to come back in. But I could see him easily leaving, kind of like last year, even though he didn't fully get there to leaving, but leaving, missing it a little bit too much, and coming back.
Well, okay, and I see that too. I see him retiring for this year and then coming back next year, which is going to sound even crazier because at that point he'll be 47.
Yeah.
But I really do see that happening in a way. Like, I'm skeptical more about this, but I think he's done this year. And I think I know why. He sees his time passing him by. He sees the new regime of top quarterbacks. We got Mahomes, you got Burrow, you got Allen, you got Hurts. You got these top 5, 6 guys, and him and Aaron Rodgers are getting faded out when they've been, for the last 15 to 20 years, been that top guy. And I think he knows time is passing him by.
Quarterbacks aren't pocket passers anymore.
They're not.
They're a running back that throws the ball sometimes, essentially.
Yeah, look at Mahomes. Like, Mahomes could run on a bum leg still. Look at Burrow. Burrow pulled it down and ran. And he's got sneaky speed. I forget Burrow's fast because you don't see him run very often. But when he does, it's like, oh, Joe can run. But yeah, you're right. It's the end of the era of the pocket passer. And we'll just see what happens. But I really do think Tampa Tom is no more.
Yeah. And moving on to our next big news topic, Sean Payton is going to coach the Denver Broncos because everyone knows the fire that they've been in lately. But I don't know. Do you think that'll be a good fit? How do you think the Broncos handle with this?
Sean Payton, Super Bowl winning head coach with the Saints. I'm not really great. Like, I really don't like coaches getting traded for draft picks, especially a first round draft pick. The Broncos gave up the 29th overall pick, by the way, that they got from Miami for Bradley Chubb. So essentially they traded Bradley Chubb for Sean Payton. I don't like that because I feel like it's setting your team back further. And if you're a new head coach, like, why would you want to do that? That's more work for you. But yeah, no, I think Sean Payton, I mean, he kind of flipped Drew Brees' career on its heels and like helped him get back to where he was. And I really think that he might be able to do it with Russell Wilson. I know he was terrible, and I think that's why the Broncos did this, is because they saw how bad Russ was with Nathaniel Hackett last year, and they realized, oh fuck, we need an offensive-minded head coach.
Yeah, I agree with trading the picks for a coach. It's I know obviously the coaching position is super important, and I think we've said it before, in certain matters when a team stacks up exactly equal, sometimes it just comes down to coaching. And so obviously it's very important, but at the same time, aren't players a little important too? Don't you think you'd questionably rather have a number 1 pick player on your field than just, hey, let's go with this little bit of coaching difference? That being said, obviously, like you said, the situation does fit pretty well. Sean Payton, creator of Drew Brees, Russell Wilson kind of needs that revamp, whatever. I think it's a good move for him. Personally, I think and I hope that it works out well.
Yeah, and I'm actually excited again for the Broncos, and maybe they'll fail me once again. Earlier in the year, I thought the Broncos were a sleeping dark horse in the AFC West, and oh boy, was I wrong. But yeah, I think now with Sean Payton under the reins, I think the Broncos could turn it around a little bit. Hopefully, we'll see. What else you got on Sean Payton to Denver?
I don't have much else there. I'll just
So
what
I
do the
got.
Broncos always say? I can't. Oh,
Let's ride.
Let's ride.
Let's ride. All right. Well, I want to talk about two head coaching vacancy. I'm just going to mention it. DeMeco Ryan, the defensive coordinator, the innovator of the San Francisco 49ers, just signed a 6-year deal to be the new head coach of the Houston Texans. DeMeco Ryan was a former All-Pro linebacker for the Texans, so that's pretty cool. He's going back home. And we have another coach going back home, Frank Reich, the Colts former head coach. He is going back to Carolina and coaching the Panthers. And he was the first quarterback to throw a touchdown for the Panthers when they became a franchise in 1995. So that's a little cool statistic there. But let's see what both those guys can do. Houston's a dumpster fire, so good luck to DeMeco Ryan. But yeah.
Hey, the good thing about Houston being a dumpster fire is, I guess not number 1 overall pick, but number 2 overall pick and second easiest schedule. Because all the schedule, so like they'll have the second easiest schedule in the NFL since they were the second worst this year. So potentially some benefits there. But moving on, we'll get into our college basketball update here. I've started to be honing in a little more on Iowa games. It's getting closer to March Madness and football's winding down, so I have a little more time. But start off with the Iowa-Rutgers game. Start off with Iowa versus Michigan State. Sadly, they did lose that one. I know our episode last time we recorded before the game happened, but didn't manage to get it posted until after the game had already been played. So by the time you guys heard it, game hadn't happened yet. But Iowa did lose 63-61. Super disappointed. That was a really, really close one. Both teams had 7 losses. Iowa had 12 wins. Michigan State had 13 wins. But I'm glad it came down to the wire. Like, I'm glad Iowa held in there super, super close right up until the end. But man, it still just sucks that they couldn't pull it together. I have a little bit of question of if Iowa is as good at finishing as they used to be. I think the one thing they might be lacking a little bit this season is just that finishing power at the end of games. But moving on from that, the next game they had was Rutgers, which we did talk about coming up a little bit. They are 14-6 at the time that we played them. They were number 2 in the conference at the time as well. And like the first time, we did beat them. 93-82, so close to that 100-point game mark. I really, really want to get back into the days of having 100-point games. I think Iowa used to have a killer offense, obviously under Keegan Murray, and Chris is doing what he can. But I hate to say it, I don't think Chris is quite as great as Keegan was. There's a reason Keegan went into the lead last year, and Chris is still playing at Iowa. He is having a much better season. He's filling his brother's shoes really, really well. Don't get me wrong. But there's a reason when they were both on the same team, it was Keegan over Chris a little bit. But another helpful component of that is we do have Patrick McCaffrey back. So that is super duper helpful. He was on a bit of a mental health leave, but he's officially back and playing. And I think that's part of the reason they're on a 2-game win streak right now. It's just having Patrick McCaffrey back helps the team out from a rotational standpoint, from a length standpoint, just phenomenally. Next game they played was Northwestern. This one just happened, I think, yesterday. I was watching it. They came down really, really close. There was a really funny stat at halftime. They were talking about both teams, Iowa and Northwestern, were 11-1 when leading at the half. And this was like a minute before the first half ended. I'm sitting there watching. It's like, I think Northwestern had 3 points on us at the time. I was like, oh man, 11-1 at the half. So the half is huge. We have to win the half. Like, I was terrified. I was getting my nerves up. Iowa hit a 3-pointer. I forget who. I think it was Sanford. But hit a 3-pointer to tie up the half. And I was like, what do we do with this stat now? 11-1 when leading at the half. It's tied. It's tied. What do we do with that? But Iowa did manage to finish this one strong, 86-70 win. Iowa's now 13-8 or 6-5 in conference, since that matters a little bit more. And next game they have coming up this Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, or 1:30 p.m. Central Time. They're playing Illinois, so pretty big rivalry. Another pretty good basketball school. They're 16-6 right now, so they have a couple more wins, a couple less losses. I think in conference, they're number 2 in the conference right now, too. So we beat Rutgers when they were number 2. We're on a hot streak, I think. Hopefully, we can continue that streak, continue that number 2 in the conference win, and take Illinois down. But thankfully, Iowa's sitting right about where they need to. That's 6-5 in conference standing. I think there's like 5 or 6 other teams that are kind of right just in that pack. They're right in that middle pack, and I think that's exactly where they need to be to hopefully have a good run in the Big Ten tournament and hopefully make it into the March Madness tournament as well.
So who does Iowa play after Illinois? Curious.
After Illinois. They play Purdue at some point. I don't know if that's the very next game or if that it is. Okay, after that they play Purdue, number 1 right now in college basketball. So
if they beat both Illinois and Purdue, we're back. We're back.
If we beat Purdue, we're officially back. Even if we lose to Illinois and we beat Purdue, we're back. Purdue is number 1 right now. Purdue is looking hot. I just watched them before hopping on. I just watched them play Penn State, and oh man, yeah, Purdue is hot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really do think Illinois is gonna pull this. I'm sorry. I think Iowa's gonna pull this out against Illinois, and that'll be exciting. 15-8. I mean, especially from where we were at 12-7. That Patrick McCaffrey coming back is huge for Iowa. So yeah, that's gonna be really exciting to see with Iowa and see what's going to happen. Now that the NFL is almost over, guys, I will be putting on my Iowa basketball hat officially. Been saying that for a week or two, but now it's official because I have nothing to watch anymore. Yep. So hey,
aside from the Super Bowl, it's basketball time.
It's basketball time. Speaking of basketball time,
I was going to transition us into. We are going to do some NBA talk too, since I know we have been giving college updates, but we're going to get a little bit into the NBA side of things. So speaking of the Murray brothers, I'll start with the Kings real quick. Not going to go into any game specifics. I haven't actually watched any games myself or anything, but the Kings are 28-21. Actually number 30 in the West right now, which is phenomenal for the Sacramento Kings. They are normally not a great team. I don't know a ton about them. I've never really watched NBA before. The only reason I'm starting now is because I'm a host on a sports podcast. The only reason I picked the Kings because Keegan Murray is kind of my favorite guy. So he's balling out. He's bringing the Kings to a whole new level. Number 3 in the West. Love to see it. They play the Pacers on Friday. We'll see if I'll be able to watch very many Kings games as they are based in Sacramento. And that is a long ways away. And the games do not broadcast here very often. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, well, so speaking of you being a Kings fan, I've been a Bucks fan for a while now. I got into basketball about when I was in middle school all the way up until about my sophomore year. Kind of fell off for a couple of years, but I've been back lately. I've always been more of an NBA guy than I have been college guy. So, but I am a Bucks fan, and we are officially right now, we're 34-17, and we played the Nuggets and Giannis went 33 points, 9 for 15 from the field. Giannis is the best player in the league. No one can tell me otherwise. I mean, he dropped 50 points on the Pelicans over Zion Williamson. And I don't know, the Bucks, if Giannis doesn't win MVP again, I'm going to be pissed off. We are number 2 in the East. We have a good shot of winning the title once again. I mean, we won the title 2 years ago, so it feels good to be a championship basketball team.
Speaking of Giannis a little bit, did you watch his documentary that he has on Netflix?
It's incredible. It's
an amazing story. I absolutely loved it. It's an amazing story.
So he comes from so humble beginnings, man. You talk about beginnings, and Giannis has one of the best. I hate to say it, but and this is the Greek freak. I love this guy. So you guys are gonna hear me talk about Bucks and probably me talking about Giannis and hyping him up all the time because he's number 1 in my heart in the NBA. But I'm very excited to see our podcast kind of convert and change for a little bit. You know, it's not going to be all football all the time. We're still going to always talk football. Don't get that wrong. We are a football podcast first. But, yeah, basketball is important. And NBA's here. It usually, is not in the spotlight because of the NFL and college football. But college basketball, NBA, that's our livelihood for the next couple of months, guys. So hopefully you get ready and get caught up on refreshed on college basketball and NBA because it's going to be an exciting ride.
Definitely. And we've thrown around a little talk of starting to watch the USFL for a little bit more of a football feel, a little more football game specific to talk about. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if it'll stick. I know I've tried to watch a little bit of XFL and USFL in the past, and just they haven't stuck very well. Part of me finds it a little hard to get into. I don't have any set teams. I don't know the teams. It's just a little difficult to watch sometimes. But for the sake of the podcast, who knows? Maybe we'll get more into it. Maybe we'll do a little bit of breakdown. So if that's something you're into, look at the teams, figure out what team you want to win. I don't think we'll do real specifics. We'll try to, if we do it, we'll do more general, just kind of a, hey, here's a general, what's happening. There's only 8 teams in the USFL.
Yeah, that's so it. 8 teams.
We can cover 8 teams pretty easily. It's 4 games a week.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be really weird. I mean, but hey, we're going to bring you content. That's why we're here. We're going to bring you content. And if that means us watching a USFL football game on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock, that means watching a USFL football game on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock. But, yeah, we're excited, guys.
All right. So, with that, those are our closing remarks. Please like, subscribe, everything on the YouTube. Assignment for today. Is Tom Brady retiring?
Yes.
I want to hear your thoughts. Yes, no, yes with an asterisk, no with an asterisk, whatever you I want to hear what you guys think. Is Tom Brady truly going to retire? Drop those comments below. Tell us what you think. Avery?
I have no other words. I want to say 4 things before we leave. Fly, Eagles fly. Fear the deer, Milwaukee Bucks. Go Hawks. And go Kings. And